This seminar is going to be a fundamental course on cosmic gamesmanship. We shall discuss, first of all, the yang and the yin, because what we are studying is the way whatever may be called the universal energy plays. The fundamental thing here is yang and yin, the positive and negative principles, to use the Chinese terms. Next, we shall discuss relativity. Then we'll go over group theory, in and out. And finally, we shall discuss identity. Who are you? But in starting, the moment one talks about cosmic gamesmanship, it carries the assumption that the physical universe is a game. And that doesn't seem to take it sufficiently seriously. Of course, according to Hindu philosophy, the physical universe is an illusion. They use the word Maya. But Maya has many meanings, and among these meanings, only one is illusion. The word illusion, of course, carries a bad connotation to Western ears. We want something that's for real. But it doesn't necessarily carry such a negative meaning to Hindu ears because Maya also means magic, creative power, art, and of all things, measurement. Maya comes from the Sanskrit root matra, from which, of course, we get meter, mother, and the Latin mater. In other words, the world can be looked upon as a perfectly good illusion. Because, in a way, all art is a creation of illusion. On a stage, the actor plays. Hindus think of the world by analogy with drama. The whole thing is a big act. And there is one actor behind it all, which is you. Not you in the sense of your so-called empirical ego, not the you imagine yourself to be, or the you censor yourself to be, but the real you at a much deeper level. But you see, when we use the word game or play in English, we tend to mean something trivial. We divide life very strictly into play and work. Other cultures don't do this. And that's one of the rather awful features of our own. This division of play and work means that most people are working at tasks they hate just to make enough money to stop doing it and then play. This is perfectly ridiculous. Nobody needs to do that. What you get with work done in this way, heartlessly, without joy, is money. And what can you do with it? Suppose you do earn time to spare and money to spend, what is there to buy with it? The answer is often fake and joyless products made by others who hate their work. So, there's a certain phoniness, a lack of essential quality in nearly all the work we perform. The work is done not for the work, but for money. And play is something separate from work. Work is serious. Play is not serious. In fact, we have a strange incapacity to play at all because we always, especially in the United States, play with an ulterior motive. Play, for instance, is good for you. And we do everything because it's good for us. We judge the physical world theoretically rather than by our senses. We believe that the proof of the pudding is not in the eating, but in the chemical analysis. It is often my fate to take lunch in college cafeterias. What must be happening to the intellectual life of the nation as a result? Professors, graduate students, and students eating this kind of stuff, well, it must be catastrophic. I go all over the United States to various colleges, and everywhere the fare is exactly the same. You get a salad, which is a piece of that wretched iceberg lettuce with a dollop of cottage cheese and a wedge of pineapple on top. Then there are slices of beef, tormented for hours in an electronic purgatory, sloshed over a rubber-coated tray with gravy made of water, flour paste, and bouillon cubes. Then there are carrots and corn, boiled for hours, sterilized because that's important. And finally, there's pie, a slab of beige goo crust that is reconstituted cardboard topped with sweetened shaving cream squirted from an aerosol can. All this has been analyzed by dietitians and departments of home economics and found to verifiably contain the right amounts of calories, proteins, carbohydrates, and vitamins. Actually, all of this is a result of academic politics. Academic politics, is mainly concerned with feuding between departments. And this is how the home economics department has rotted the brains of historians, anthropologists, mathematicians, and physicists through cafeteria fare. And this goes on everywhere. Things are judged not because they are good, but because they are good for you. And if we inquire carefully what this good for us is, well, you're not supposed to look into that. It's taboo. The whole culture would fall apart if we found out. Because what is the good that's good for you? It's always something in the future, it never happens, and it's never going to happen. All these vitamins and carbohydrates can do is keep you in a state of reasonable survival in which you never catch up with anything. Because, you see, time is strictly an illusion. There is no such thing as time any more than there is such a thing as the equator. Time is a measure of motion, just like latitude and longitude measure the surface of the earth, and nobody will ever tie up a rope at the equator. There is, however, such a thing as timing, which is different from time. Timing is skillful rhythm, but you cannot ever attain proper timing if you hurry, if you're in a hurry to get to the future, because the future is never going to arrive. If you hurry, you always get a punishment for it. For example, instant coffee, TV dinners, the sort of food they serve on airplanes, or all the beef that's cooked in electronic ovens. These things are awful because they are the result of the illusion of time, that something good for us is in the future and that we're going to get to it. This is the result of an educational system geared to literary and mathematical pursuits, training everyone to be clerks, salespeople, insurance agents, and bureaucrats. Only reluctantly does education offer any instruction in material competence, and even then only to people considered too stupid to be intellectuals. So, the basic arts of life in our culture, farming, cooking, dressing, furnishing, lovemaking, are utterly neglected. There is no sophisticated training widely available in any of these for the average person. And that's why there is nothing on which to spend the time we save and the money we earn, except trash. Fake cards, pasteboard houses, bread made of squishy styrofoam, vitamin-enriched but nutritionally empty, because we have fallen for the illusion of time. So, the only thing that is absolutely necessary for a culture, a society of cultivated people, is the cultivation and devotion to the present, to the material world, rather than the purely theoretical. In Sanskrit, Maya can indicate, in one sense, the physical world. In a positive sense, the physical world is actually a marvelous work of art. But Maya, in another sense, refers to all the ways we number and categorize the physical world. Time is Maya. Latitude and longitude are Maya. The future is Maya in the less exciting sense of illusion. So, because of this state of mind, we don't think play is important. We play to refresh ourselves to go back to work. But that's not play. Play is real absorption in the delight of the moment. When you dance, for example, you don't dance because it's good for you, you dance because you're happy. You see, we have a strange incapacity for happiness, as we are often happier expecting good things to happen rather than when they're actually happening. We say of a thing that it has no future, as if that's bad. Well, nothing has a future, there's only a present, and we have to understand this at a basic level. So, when we hear a performance of a Bach cantata or even a purely non-symbolic thing like a fugue, we don't think it's trivial. We don't think it's trivial to play the organ in church. We don't think Shakespeare's plays are trivial, they're plays. Play, in the sense I'm using it, is a musical thing. It is a dance. It is an expression of delight. Like Blake's, energy is eternal delight. For example, Islamic art, the intricate arabesques, these are play too. According to this thesis, the universe is just like that, a very, very elaborate play system. The fundamental elements of this play, as the Chinese call them, are the yang and the yin. Yang means the positive and yin the negative. Yang refers to the south side of a mountain which is in the sun, yin to the north side which is in the shade. Yang is symbolically or prototypically male while yin is female. This is not to cast any reflections on women. It's more that yang is aggressive and yin is yielding. Yang is convex. Yin is concave. Now, the secret about opposites, just as important as realizing that there is no such thing as time, is this: they appear to be as different as can be. We say of opposites, like black and white, that they are poles apart. But in using that phrase, poles, you imply a connection, like as in the second chapter of Lauder, where he says, when all the world knows beauty to be beautiful, there is already ugliness. When all the world knows goodness to be good, there is already evil. For to be and not to be arise mutually. What confuses people is that they don't see this. They think, for example, that the positive is something there, which truly exists, whereas the negative has less reality, it doesn't exist. We think that, for example, the space in which this universe floats is a nonentity, and has no importance. And we are thereby because we see energy manifested in the positive aspect of things and no energy manifested in the negative, afraid that energy, and its delight, is threatened by nothingness, that it's going to be swallowed up and that, in the end, darkness will win. We feel that about ourselves and we feel it about the universe as a whole. because energy is effort. And with effort, after a while, you get tired, you can't keep it up. And so we assume darkness must win. According to Chinese philosophy, that is a hallucination, because energy cannot be manifested without inertia. There must be something to push against for there to be any manifestation of energy. You cannot dance without a floor to use your energy against. When energy or any kind of motion is completely unobstructed, there's a sort of squash, a fizzle, and nothing happens. Because, fundamentally, as we shall see next hour, motion is only realized when there is stillness. Relativity. And so, energy is only realized when there is inertia, and the positive is only realized when there is the negative to bring it out. These things work together. But when you don't realize it, you are anxious. You are afraid that the dark side is going to win. Now, the minute that happens, you become unable to play. You start getting serious, and the game degenerates into a fight. Because you feel it absolutely urgently necessary under those circumstances that the positive must be made to win, accentuate the positive, you see. And that leads to all this beastly kind of religion, where people go around with false smiles and hearty handshakes, trying to accentuate the positive. And the moment that a person does that, you know that it's a big fake, a put-on, there's something utterly unreal about it. That's why you may have often experienced the fact that certain kinds of virtuous people are offensively virtuous, and they are very difficult to get on with. They don't have any light touch. And of course, this is particularly prevalent in religions. Because not all religions, but many religions, are states of terror about the negative side. I was talking with a very enlightened nun the other day, a Catholic, and she was open to all sorts of new ideas. I said, there's one thing wrong with your worship and the way you sing your hymns and chant your chant and do all these rituals. You don't swing. I don't mean by that it isn't syncopated. I mean that there is not an attitude of delight about it. You feel the service is being conducted in the presence of the chief inspector of morals, the original stuffed shirt, the appalling grandfather in whose presence you dare not show any kind of exuberance. Because, after all, when we are children and we are very exuberant, leaping around and bouncing all over the place, we make the adults tired. The moment a child starts getting exuberant, they really try to give him a guilty conscience. You have no business having so much fun. There are other people in the world who hurt. There are people who are starving. There are people who suffer. And here you are, going around leaping as if the whole thing is gorgeous. That's a kind of irreverence. So be guilty, shut up. As a result of that, when we think an occasion is of particular solemnity, whether you're in church, in court, or standing in a row of Marines saluting the flag, everybody gets grim. And so, there is no delight in religion of that kind. Well, this nun agreed with me that they really ought to do something about that. And I said, well, maybe I'll come to your convent and teach you how to sing. But, you see, all of that is because of the fear that nothing will win over something. Now, it's true, in games there is a winner and a loser. But in a fight, it is different. In a fight, the object of victory is to get rid of the defeated party, because he's bad and ought not to be there at all. But in a game, it's quite different, because if there is to be a winner, there has to be a loser. So it's terribly important not to get rid of the opponent. You could have no chess unless you had the black side as well as the white. Impossible. In a game, we admire the person we call a good loser, that is to say, a good sport, because he does not take the loss seriously. It's very instructive, for example, to play any game you know well, whether it's chess or checkers or whatever, with yourself. And each time you move over to the opposite side, play it with your best skill. For example, you can play a very marvelous game. You take 2 cocktail olive toothpicks, the kind made with little plastic swords, and you do a fencing match with yourself. One hand actually tries to stick the other, and the other hand really tries to defend itself. You'll find this is extremely interesting. It's a meditation exercise. And then you realize, you see, what is the nature of a game. Because if you are a good chess player, you may congratulate yourself if your opponent wins, if you have given him a good contest.